What if I offered you $10,000 for all of the books on your Kindle? Could you give it to me? The truth is that you couldn't, because the way that digital publishing has evolved, you don't actually own your digital assets. You own a license to be able to view them. And this was a big problem the Stuff.io platform set out to solve. They're revolutionizing digital assets by creating a new technology with over 1,200 patents, and opens up the door to a new solution where you own your own stuff. Whether it's a book, music, a video series, those things are now able to be produced in a new way with a new file type. So we get into the implications on the educational industry in this conversation and think about how we can deliver our workbook that pairs with the course as a decentralized encrypted asset. You're going to really enjoy this one, and we hope that you enjoy it as much as Sheila and I enjoyed making it. Sheila from Stuff.io and Book.io.
Both, exactly.
Yes.
Both in one.
A double title,
Yeah.
an enormous mission, and a fantastic conversation we're going to have today. I'm very excited because every time we talk, I get new ideas, which is kind of dangerous. And especially for this project, really collaborating with you and the Stuff team is such a huge opportunity for the project itself, of course, but I think the scope of the opportunity really scales outside even the Cardano ecosystem to pretty much anyone who is making or using or enjoying any kind of digital media, period, which is pretty much everyone. So we're going to help the whole world today with this conversation, is how I feel about it.
Absolutely. That's the whole goal of every day.
Yes, that's right.
Help the entire world.
That's the entire world. So there's so much that we could talk about today. And in this, specific to this proposal, what we're going to use, this part of the collaboration is about the workbook and the sort of overall community building process when you have a bunch of people who are learning together. And so this conversation and this part of this proposal came about from us meeting at Rare Evo. So everyone should go to events because it's a great place to just make new friends and get new ideas.
Absolutely.
And it came about from us just talking and thinking about the different ways that the technology that you developed can be used. And it was born into this current state that we're talking about. So what I would love to do for people is give everyone a sense of really what you guys are doing, because what you guys are doing is way, way, way beyond, vastly more beyond how we're going to use it for this proposal. And so I think it's important that people get a sense of the scope of this first, and why they should be excited about creating decentralized encrypted assets, and a little bit about how you're envisioning this to grow in the next few years. So maybe we can just start with who you are and how you joined this team and what you guys are doing.
Awesome. Well, hi, everyone. My name is Sheila Doman, VP of Marketing for Book.io and Stuff.io. Been with them for 2.5 years now, since December of 2022. And yeah, we are here to change the world. And that's honestly why I wanted to join this team. This technology is revolutionary. It's proprietary technology that these guys came up with. And it is a way that protects both sides of artistry. So it protects the artist and it protects the consumer. All of us are here with our love of blockchain and blockchain technology. So even if you guys haven't completely divulged into what everything is, this is a way to publish digital assets onto the blockchain. So you might have seen or heard of things called NFTs that are often sold as individual pictures that come off as files that you actually own. We are the full asset. So we are the full book, the full audio book, the full music album, the full movie. And we have taken our technology and created a thing called the decentralized encrypted asset. This takes your artistry's asset chops it up into 1,000 pieces and encrypts each little piece. We pin it to IPFS, and through this glorious thing called the blockchain, you're able to prove that ownership, right? So the same way that you've been learning about your wallet and creating your own accounts and being on different blockchains, you put in your password for each of those wallets, right? So all this does is say, prove your ownership, that you own this actual asset. And then it takes all those pieces that we have pinned all over IPFS, unencrypts them. So it puts the two keys together and literally puts your book, your movie, your music together, the one page at a time, 1 second of a time, and puts it together as you consume it. So think of this as the artist, right? How many people get their books put on piracy sites for free and you can go read any book you want? Oh, you just have to strip off the digital rights management. No big deal, which isn't fair. That person stayed up how many years, how many nights writing this book, creating these movies, the amount of money, the millions of dollars that go into making a movie. How many years of poetry did this person write to make this album of music, right? And people are just ripping it off and putting it on, the dark web and maybe making money for themselves, but it's definitely not getting back to the artist. And there's also always the fight over who created the lyrics, who created original things, right? Blockchain solves this all, right? So we put it on that giant ledger that everybody keeps track of, and we all know this particular person put this on the blockchain and verified themselves as the creator on this date. So there's no more arguing of who's the original artist, who's the original author. So it solves so many problems from the artist point of view. From the consumer point of view, if you guys yourselves are people who enjoy reading books, listening to music, watching movies, as most people in this world do, now you instantly have a community that is verified that they have all consumed this, right? So there's no longer this website verified that I purchased it. It goes beyond that. We can actually see, hey, this person read the entire book, so they're allowed in this book club to discuss it, right? Instead of somebody coming in and just trolling the author and saying how much they hated these things. And most of the time, they've never even read the book, right? This is complete verification of you consuming this media. So the sense of community that we all love about blockchain and that we have come together in order to learn how to do these things together. The whole point of all this is community. Now you have a verified fanship of community. So there's really cool sides from being a consumer of that marketing side too, right? Like now people can market to people who have actually verified, consumed that media. And you now have the power to lend your book, rent your book, sell your book, media, music, right? Because you own it. This is kind of a fun fact that a lot of people don't realize. You don't own all that stuff that you are buying off of some example websites here. So if you've bought a book on Kindle or Barnes & Noble or Apple Books, right? You're not buying that book. You're buying a license to read that book, which means at any time it can get changed. It can get taken away. Your subscription can get taken away, right? Simple things of like, oh my gosh, I had thousands of books piled up in that library and they're all gone because my credit card lapsed or whatever. Sometimes if you don't have a credit card from that exact country and you've moved, that entire account goes away, changes. The creators or the publishers can go in and go, this content isn't really acceptable anymore. We're going to take it out. We're going to change it, right? So if you want to read, listen to, watch what that artist intended the audience to actually consume, the full story, the full immersive point of their artistry, you can only consume what they have put out, right? And so we allow that. So we are saying this is put out by the artist, it's protected and verified on the blockchain, and you as a consumer on the blockchain now own that digital asset. And so you consume it exactly how it was intended. And once it gets on the blockchain, nobody can change it. If you misspelled a word, sorry. If something like an honest mistake is even put out there, sorry, there's no way to actually change it. So like any of these books that are banned or getting chunks taken out of them, that's not possible when something gets published to the blockchain. You can't watch the original Star Wars anymore, right? People have gone back and taken those parts out unless you own it on VHS or a DVD. That's the original Star Wars. What you guys see on the streaming services is not the original. So just those particular assets where you're like, oh, I have to own this, right?
Mm-hmm.
But everybody wants to own it digitally these days because it is 2025. We want to own our assets. And so it's usually not an option digitally. You have to stream it. You have to license it. Not anymore. Bring in the blockchain, bring in book.io and stuff.io. You now own your digital assets. So it gives you the power to do what you want with them.
I think this is one of the more accessible things to explain to people about blockchain also. Like to explain decentralized finance to someone is like you have to really overcome a lot of either it's like just basic knowledge things. Like not everyone has investments, not everyone goes to the stock exchange to buy something, not everyone has that kind of experience, not everyone's comfortable talking about money, right? But
Sure.
all of us are in some way on a daily basis interacting with digital assets.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think when it comes to having this conversation with people who are newer to the concept of blockchain, everyone gets the limitation of not being able to actually own the album. Like
Right.
we used to all have stacks and stacks of CDs
Exactly.
or records, or we actually had that thing. It had tangible memory to us. We had experiential value to us. And how this is affecting the music industry is also very different than how digital assets affected the book industry, although very similar to the book publishing industry. So I think that maybe we could spend a second on that, because I guess the easiest way for me to think about it for digital licensing is the gallery example.
Mm-hmm.
Like I could spend $250 and buy a painting by my favorite painter, and that goes directly to them. And then I own the painting. Sure. I can take, if I move houses, I can take it to the next house. If I want to lend it to my kid when they go to college, I can do that. If I want to sell it, I can sell it. And if that artist has taken off, I might sell it for way more than I originally did.
Right.
But unfortunately, that artist is not going to get any of that. So the artist makes the thing once, and that's pretty much it. So let's just stay with the ownership of the item. It's akin in the digital space to, I spent that $250 and I got a ticket to a gallery where the painting is, and I can go in there and look at it. But if they take that painting down and put a different painting up or change it slightly, I don't have any control over that. I don't own the actual asset. Right. I don't own the thing.
Right.
And so over a long period of time, if my ticket expires or I can't go anymore, I can't look at that painting. So I didn't actually own the thing ever. And that's a lot of what you're describing there.
Yeah.
For the artist also, they're not getting that $250. They're getting some smaller portion of it that it may or may not sustain them in a livelihood way. And so we're actually losing a lot of the creative potential of artists through the emergence of digital assets, which made things a lot more accessible to people, but also really reconfigured how we work with those. And it's exponentially more complex for musicians and for people who are making those kind of arts, because streaming is completely a whole other universe of royalties and payments and components and who owns it and how what portion are you getting. That's a whole other level of complexity for artists. So in this digital asset, when I buy a digital asset, it's sort of like a return to, I can buy a painting and also I can buy it digitally. So I
Right.
own that thing, and now I can give it to Sheila if I want, or I can lend it to my friend if I want, or I can, read it over and over again if I want without having any additional payments. And the artist or writer of that, the creator of that content, can attach through smart contracts royalties to that, so that if I sell the book that I bought from my friend or from the artist that I want to support, if I sell that book or that painting to Sheila, that original artist can get a portion of that. And so there's a perpetual growth of the whole curriculum, or the whole portfolio of that artist over time and over their career, which is like never been before happened. So
Yeah.
what are some examples that you're seeing happen right now? Like what are some like stories where you have seen an artist really take advantage of this opportunity so far?
We've had a couple that are great examples of, New York Times bestsellers that come on, and they'll do a collectible book, right? So we'll have a couple hundred different covers, right? And so that gets everybody into the collector's mode because they're numbered. You might get one of the couple covers that are one-on-ones, so nobody else in the world has that book cover. These guys selling out 4,000 books in like 19 seconds. It's like that.
Wow.
That's more than they sell of that book in its lifetime. And they did it instantly because everybody's all about that collection. And what is it going to turn into? It is exactly like your painting. What happened? This artist might not be famous now, but what happens when they are? I want to make sure I'm in on that and that I own something from them, right? Not that I just went to the museum that one time and saw that painting. That doesn't get me any trophies on my wall, right? You can tell a good story, but you don't get any kind of monetary benefit from it. You're not going to be able to resell it later for something higher. So these books actually turned into 3 times what they sold for on the initial sale. So if, on average, everything on secondary is going 3 times more than the initial sale. So like you're mentioning, everything that gets sold on secondary, it's in the smart contract. If you guys haven't learned about smart contracts yet, it's a fun thing of being able to track and control that money, and it's out in the open, right? So the secondary market allows you to have royalties go back to the creator, and that's in perpetuity, right? So they can leave those rights to their great-great-grandchildren, and they're still going to be making money off of their great grandfather's book that it keeps reselling on the blockchain, which is just so cool. It's like, yes, that's the way it's supposed to work. When you create something and you create art and you create culture, that adds to the story of who we are as our country or our humanity or the genre that you like, right? You should get paid, for adding to that and creating that story with everyone. So we absolutely love helping our creators, and sustainability wise too. So you can always have the humanitarian side. So you can have part of those royalties go to a nonprofit. You can have them go and benefit other things because it's just part of that smart contract of, hey, we want, the 2% of each secondary sale to go to this charity. Great. You're going to be helping them for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. Like how cool is that? We've had artists of music that hadn't sold a song in, I think, 10 years. And they're like, I got a whole bunch of CDs of myself in literally in the garage. Can I put those on stuff.io? Yeah, let's go. Sold out like 3,000 the very first day, so it's like making money off of stuff that hasn't made you money, if ever, but hasn't made you money in a really long time is like, what? Why not? Why is all this stuff on just streaming platforms and YouTube for free? That's not fair. It's like you have
it's not sustainable. It's not fair. It's not sustainable. It doesn't feel good for anyone. Like I would love to, when I see something that really moves me, I want to support that thing.
Yes.
And we have Patreon, we have that kind of stuff, and that's sort of where artists have gone. But it's not the same as getting paid for your work,
Right.
for the thing that you made. And I
Right.
think that the collectible aspect of it also, like the rarity piece, is really exciting. I was surprised myself. I'm not someone who collects things really, in terms of like, some people like to have, they have instruments or they have like stamps or whatever those things are that they like to collect. I don't think about myself like that. I love my little collection of different things that I've acquired over this time of just getting a book. You have my Gutenberg Bible, I have all this different stuff. And those things can generate value, and they have like a great variety of uses. And I would love to just get into that right now, but I think for the sake of really thinking about this DEA, let's talk a little bit about how we might really maximize the use of this DEA for someone who is a content creator. Like, I don't consider myself necessarily a content creator. I think we consider ourselves more like knowledge sharers. And so for us, it's like, in trying this proposal, how do we like really create environments where people feel good about absorbing new knowledge and actually using it in things that are meaningful to them? But a lot of people are content creators. There's a lot of people out there who, do a channel for the sake of doing a channel, and who make educational courses because they used to teach them in person and now they moved online in COVID. And there's so much of that. There's so many applications of this. So I'm going to try to put that hat on for people who would watch this in the future. And for others, or for artists or musicians, this also really applies to you. And I would say to anyone, maybe even hit pause or finish watching this, and then the next thing you should do is read the book.io white paper or the stuff.io white paper. If you're a musician, probably the stuff.io is an expansion that really does all manner of media, whereas book.io really maintains that relationship to the book, although that also could be on a Stuff platform. And I would say that the white paper, like, not everyone loves to read white paper. The white paper is just simply like an overview of what you're doing and why you're doing it and how it's happening. And almost all projects in Cardano, at least, have a white paper or a light paper. Reading those is so helpful. And I think you guys really, it's so accessible. It really gives someone the problem and then the explanation of the technology in a digestible way. So I think if anyone is hearing this and is like, oh, this is like something for me, that's a great thing to check out.
Yes.
And as a next step. But the thing that stood out for me for this project is the idea of educators or institutions who are helping cohorts learn together. It could be a university, it could be a motorcycle club, right? Whoever is trying to get a group together and help them progress to a new level of being able to do something, this really could work for that. And we have set this project up as a series of courses that are really project driven. It's not just you're going to watch the videos and learn something, but you're actually going to apply that and in a meaningful way. And so the workbook really goes along with that. It's a companion to that learning process where you're getting scenarios, you're getting problems to solve, you're getting experiential challenges like, for example, opening a wallet, or how do you save 10% of what you earn over a 3-month period, or talk to someone and try to explain blockchain to them, right? So there's these sort of experiential journeys, and the existence of the workbook itself in a DEA form is something that people can mint, so that they're going to have that experience, and then they'll be able to own this thing, do the course alongside it, have it as a guide, like a student would have a textbook as a guide to an online course, or like you might have a workbook that goes along with the book that you're reading. So you're learning something and then you're getting this interactive component. And we're hoping that as someone mints this workbook, they can use it sort of as their gateway to new experiences in our partners' learning environments. So we have Adamio and Olympus Insights and Wisdom courses.
Mm-hmm.
All three of them have learning environments and very different approaches. And so when someone mints this workbook, they'll be able to take the workbook in their wallet, connect their wallet to an environment, and experience things they wouldn't otherwise.
Right. And that's the cool thing about blockchain and digital assets on the blockchain is it gives you utility of things that you own, right? So how many, the painting behind you, yes, you own it. That's awesome. Like you're into actual ownership, right? But does it unlock a community? Did it get you to earn more tokens that you could actually go put in an exchange and get into your own currency? I mean, did you get paid to have that painting? That's what some of our partners are doing here. Does it unlock credentials? Does it give you actual academic credentials of that? That's what these digital assets are doing. So they give you utility. So the minute that these guys are connecting to your wallet and seeing these digital assets in there, it goes with all these different utilities, right? So some of the utility examples just on our site, not even when we connect to partners, right? We talked about owning a Gutenberg Bible. It was the very first thing we ever minted because that was the very first book ever published, right? So that's why we did it. But it provides discounts for almost everything we sell, right? So it's like if you have a Gutenberg Bible in your wallet, you get I mean, I don't know if we've ever added it up of how much the discount actually is from owning this thing. They sell for a lot of money. So if you want to then turn around and sell it or rent it, you can actually make money from owning this asset, right? And then it also, you can get, so if we did for the first 24 months after we created our own stuff token, if you had a Gutenberg in your wallet, you got 833 stuff token every single month for 24 months, right? So you're literally getting bonus tokens into your wallet that you can then turn around and mint it, movies and books and music with. There's certain mints that allow stuff purchases, right? So it's, oh my gosh, these are the most amazing frequent flyer miles that I'm able to turn around and get legitimate assets for and legitimate benefits. You can always do a thing in the blockchain world that's called token gating, right? So if you have this asset in your wallet and you connect it to that platform, it gets you into other things, right? So think about that community, right? Does it get you into a book club where everybody has read this book? Does it get you into a fan club where everybody has listened to Taylor Swift's newest album? And maybe she hops in on a Zoom just for that community, right? Because it's like the creators want to be with their fans, right? They want to connect directly to their fans and not have all this space and platforms and hard up and down of who's legit, who's a robot. So why not? Why not get into those fan groups and those communities? So there's so many benefits. And yeah, throughout our partners, you're now able to get credentials. You're able to get into the academic world with this workbook. So it's a great example of just some of the things that you can do with blockchain, what you can do with digital assets, and having them in your wallet. So I think it's a perfect example of how people can learn all the point of digital assets on blockchain, right? So many people know about the financial side, and that's a whole nother side of education, but there's real world applications besides just money and the currency side. It's actually the people side. It's the actual ownership of assets side that blockchain allows you to have as well.
It's this wonderful mixture of like a VIP pass for like a concert and like an office hours pass for a professor who you'd really love to be able to talk to.
Yep.
And earning capacity, right?
Yep.
Like that we didn't even get into earning to read, right? Which is a huge component of the platform overall. So I guess to really drill down for this, in thinking about it for me, the scope is so, I want to do everything, right? And when you want to do everything, I want it also to make sense for the people who are going to use it, and I want it to be meaningful. And it has to work also, right? So you sometimes I come to you and I have like 7 ideas, and you're like, okay, I don't know how you got there, but let's come back over here and try to figure it out, right? Because it's so inspiring.
Maybe in 10 years, like that, yeah, that's the way everybody's.
Well, this is how we figure this stuff out, and we figured out that it's great. Like when I was there with you in Texas, we were talking about what it would be like to have, like, you could merge an audiobook and a written book in one place. So I'm about to take Derek to the airport. He's going to be on a flight for 8 hours. It would be cool if he was reading at one point and then the lights go down, or it's not the right ambiance anymore to be able to read easily, and he could just switch to the audiobook part from that same spot, right? So when you have an asset that's versatile, like a DEA is, you can build all these different components. It makes it's so dramatically different from an NFT. Like when people in a space are like, oh, it's like an NFT, I was like, it's nothing like it. It's like an NFT in that it has all the benefits that an NFT has, but what you can actually do with it, what you can build into that asset. You can have a token like Charles did with Charles token, where the token itself is also a documentary, right? So there's so much to do with it. I'm going to try to zoom it in, which is, as I'm thinking about this, each of the 3 educate. So this is what someone will have to think about when they come into taking their goal, their mission, and putting it into these different environments. Each of them have different technological capacities, right? So a quiz in one environment is different than a quiz in another environment.
Right.
Adamio approaches things in a learn to work project-based sort of upside down to how we usually think about education. We think education like, I learn a bunch of stuff and I start by just learning, and then eventually I try to apply it to something and test myself. They really start with, here's what we're aiming to be able to do. And if my goal is I can open a wallet, some people can open a wallet first day. They don't have to do 3 of those courses because they're past that part. They don't need to spend that time. They have justified that they can do it, validated that they can do it. And so that project itself is the testament to that, versus I'm going to start and teach you how to open a wallet, and at the end we're going to open a wallet. And that inversion really helps someone to self-assess and to self journey through a learning process. But the review might be totally different. Whereas like Ollie helps incentivizes you for learning, for doing that work of just sort of making sure that you have gone through that process of digesting that information, and then you get compensated for that. You get rewarded for that in different ways in their learn to earn model, which is really neat. And they have closed question reviews. So for example, I watched the lesson, I took it in, and now I need to be able to test myself and also validate that I've learned that thing, especially if I'm getting a credential. And Wisdom Courses has it at a whole different collection of ways that you can ask questions in there. And that's like a different kind of a build, and you can white label there. There's a lot of different components that, and the delivery of it is a little bit different. So in creating a workbook, maybe not everyone who creates an offering like we're creating will put it in these different environments. But for me, it's really interesting to think about, what does this workbook look like in these different environments, and what do these different models allow us to do in this space? And maybe only one is suited for someone, or maybe only the other is suited for someone, but at least you'll be able to sort of parse through and understand what those things are.
Yeah. And I think that's what's fun from a marketing mind, right? Like, I'm so excited about like the A/B testing of all of these different platforms, because it's the same workbook, it's the same content, but it's applied so many different ways, because there's so many different ways that people learn, right? So writing for that these days is super hard, right? I mean, down to your font sizes and colors and letters that need to be bigger and pop out, for and the digital online space. Do you need more blue light? Do you need less blue light? Like all the things that people's brains, now that we're so advanced as a human being, and we understand how the brain works and brain learns and how different everybody is. I'm super excited. The A/B testing of all of this, is that a gender thing? Is it an age range thing? Is it all over the place? Is it kind of a nature versus nurture thing? Is it what you're exposed to in life? Is it more environmental, learns this way? Like, who knows? It's so exciting because it is something that we teach all these people every single day how to do these things so they can use the platform. And it'll be exciting to have so many options, first of all, and then see what clicks with whom. Is it, oh, hey, I would do that if I got to earn something. If I essentially got paid to do it, I would do it. So like, also what's the motivation behind learning? Is it somebody just super wants to learn and they're curious? Curiosity is a very precious thing these days. It's hard to actually generate in people, right? It's still such a organic thing that comes from the human mind, of that natural curiosity. So when we talk about like organic marketing and stuff, it's like, how do you spark curiosity in people? It's like, oof, that's an organic thing a lot of times. So are people just curious and they want to know about blockchain? Or are they more motivated to, okay, my university is requiring this credential, or I want to test me on it. I read the book, test me on it and get some money from it. Heck yeah, I'll do that. So it'll be very interesting to actually analyze everything that this project does.
I think that it's one of those things that creates more questions. Like when I set out to do the workbook, I really had a clear vision of how I was going to do it. And then I had conversations with everyone and I was like, no. So I guess the questions that for you are, because how do we do as much as we can and demonstrate as much as we can, but not make it such a scope that it's actually too many things, right? And that's where I'm wanting to get. And I guess in the time that we have left, which is like, I feel like we use this time excellently, because my hope is that people will really get a sense of the scope and get excited about it, of what is available overall. But as far as the project, I guess for me, I could put it up, but I originally was thinking that everything would go into one workbook. Someone would get that workbook and they could use it in any of those environments. That's a challenge because those environments invite people in a different way. Sure. And so I was thinking about doing it like there's each lesson. So right now there's 4 courses. Each course has a lesson. So I was going to make one workbook for all the courses. They'd all be in there. Like you'd have a textbook that would have everything in there. And maybe I shouldn't be thinking about it like a textbook. Maybe that's also limiting. Like maybe I should think about it differently than that. I don't know what the analogy would be, but ultimately I want them to come to this workbook and understand, like almost like a choose your own adventure book, where they start out, they have a sense of what they want to learn. Certain things might interest them more than other things. So they can go around and learn components. The course is chronological because it sort of needs to be. You have certain prereqs, like you need a wallet before you can connect to a DEX. You can't do much on a DEX before you have a wallet. But I also wanted it to be really like life focused. Like a big thing that people say to us often is, I don't have any extra cash. And so therefore I can't. But that's a statement that has nothing to do with DeFi. The statement has to do with how you think about money. Right. So some of this is like reflection on how you grow your livelihood overall. And some of it is very skills based. And so I think it makes a lot of sense to have reflection kind of questions, A reflection question might teach you a lot about yourself. It might not validate the answering. It might not validate to someone that you understand a concept. And that's okay if that's not your purpose for taking the course, right? So I guess I'm still in the place of really thinking like it's not hard for me at all to go through the lessons and make calculations questions like if you bought this much ADA and it does this, what happens? Or go make a wallet and put the address here. And that is like, it's not hard to come up with those things. It's more when the person sits down and they want to get started, how do they, go on one adventure and then want to go on the next adventure without it being too directed, like enough flexibility that you can have fun, but enough structure that at the end of it, you feel like you've been guided and assisted in your process of learning.
Yeah, where it's like it's that experiential way instead of just a learning situation. And it's almost you could do that through even just minting the workbook, right? Like, did you get just a normal workbook with the same cover because you bought it for $1, or did you spend $10 and get a collector's workbook that's numbered and then you're able to go and look at the rarity chart and go like, oh my gosh, I'm in the first tier of covers. Okay, what if I like use the cheap workbook for this stuff, but I went and sold this one? How do I do that? So it's like, that's the kind of stuff that we naturally see people go through where they're like, I want to read this book, or I want to, watch this movie. And then they get it and they go, wait, what does number 001 mean? And you're like, that means it's worth a lot of money. And they're like, well, how did I do that? Will you teach me? So then you go through like actually taking control of a self-directed wallet and, getting that desktop extension on there and getting connected to secondary markets, right? So it spurs continuous engagement in different ways just by the natural way that things get minted and people, have them. So it's like, what's your goal of using this workbook? Do you just want to use it and learn and get your so that I think that might be like something at the very beginning, like the very first page would be like, your experiential journey. What's your intentions with this workbook? And that kind of can, be your choose your own adventure. That leads you on the way of like, well, I want to get rich. It's like, oh, okay. Like
legit.
That's everybody, but okay, we can't guarantee you get rich, but here are the ways that you can actually, learn to earn or you can resell things, like all the different possibilities and take
really
them.
Interesting. That's a great point, because someone who's financially motivated, there's so many ways that you could, and that's where I come to, because I can only do it once. I mean, technically I could do it a lot of times, but I really, the question could, if you're financially motivated, maybe you want to figure out immediately how to get to the money, lending, and borrowing, and it makes the most sense that you do on the Learn to Earn platform. Right. But maybe the structure of it in some other way might fast track you more. Yeah. So it really, there's a lot of questions there. I think my biggest takeaway from this conversation is that maybe I should think about having just tiers of them and have different level, like, the course itself is free. There's always there's an FYI for someone thinking about it. There's a cost to minting. So either you absorb that cost yourself or you pass it along. So there will be a cost for the workbook piece. And maybe we do different levels, which would actually make it easier for me, I think, than trying to get it all in one.
Yeah.
And then the question is, do we make it different for each platform? Or is it different based on, I think for the user, it makes the most sense if it's different based on their sort of intentions and what's brought them to it. And then the question is, what are those categories?
Yeah. And I think it's just the business model of each partner is those categories. It's like, are you learning this, but for any actual intention that you have a goal of learning, right? Okay, that we know what partner that leads to. Are you learning this because you want an alternative to, some financial freedom or opportunities? Okay, that might lead to this one. Are you out to stick it to the man and, publish a whole bunch of banned books.
Something Cardano.
Cool. Yeah. Cool. We've got a publisher's portal for you. So that kind of thing of like, what's your intentions? And I think that you would be able to have much tighter writing for each one too, instead of like, you can do this, think of all of our rare Evo conversations, right? Like we had to keep circling back and be like, I forgot to tell you something.
Yes, totally.
There's so much. And anybody who, thank you if you do go and read our white paper, it helps with the categories and, each part of the tech and where the roadmap is leading, and the point of it all, right? What's the real world point of this? An application to the real world for all of this. And because if you try to just explain it, where it's like, your aunt calls you up and goes, what do you do again? And you just kind of go, blah, all the things.
All day long.
Like, oh, but I forgot to tell you, like, but I like coffee table books. Oh, you could actually print it. We have that whole side of it too, and it's like, wait, what?
Yes.
So it just kind of comes out of like all the things. And it's like, well, I heard you have, a crypto token. So you're into crypto. And it's like, that's just the technology that it sits upon, and it's so many things all at once in a couple of sentences when people try to understand it and put in their own assumptions on it. And so that might, we don't want the workbook to be that of like, here's all the things that Cardano can be, right? Where it's like, oh, I thought it was a secure way that I could send money to a country that doesn't have a central banking system. Well, yeah, that too, So it's like, you don't want to like have all these ideas on top of each other. And somebody go, I don't really get what this is. It's like, if you had intentions of each one, it might be tighter writing. And if somebody wants to read all 3 or 4, great. Like I think it'd be neat to read all 3 or 4 and see how they differ. But it's, you get the same information, but it's delivered in those completely different ways of what's the end goal.
This has been really productive because I think I'm going to just split it like that and really make it user focused in that way. Yeah. I like the idea of the textbook approach, but I think that was putting me too much in like a rigid mindset. And maybe what I'll do is I'm going to go about it more like choose your own adventure.
Yeah, I think that would be better. And it's not going to be that much more work. Like it should just be shorter, tighter,
right.
Instead of here's your turn to the chapter on World War II in your textbook. It's like, oh my gosh, how do you even start writing that? So it's like kind of the same way that people, have to condense all this stuff into a textbook and just go blah. Mm-hmm. And then, somebody who lived through that actual historical event reads the textbooks and goes, that's not what happened. I was there, Yeah. It's the same way of like, no, that's not how you use the asset. You use it in this way. And you're like, okay, if we actually had it separated, if you read the history of, Germany versus the history of the United States in these, particular years, it's going to be much clearer in somebody's mind of like, oh, this is, the story of living it out. Here's the story of learn to earn. Here's the story of, using the blockchain to get to an intended outcome. I think that would be a lot easier for you to write and for the consumer to follow. And maybe they want to go and read every country that was, their story in the war. Maybe they want to read every single workbook and see all the different outcomes. So it's not even a different story. It's just the different possible outcomes of the utility of this workbook.
Right. I think we did it. I'm going to really come back to this in our next conversation. I'm going to see if I can get those in categories and sort of outline it. And then we'll think about what the format would look like for minting the thing. And I think that will give us the next steps.
Yeah, because we can do 4 different mints.
Yeah.
That's easy. Super easy.
You're amazing. Thank you for your time. I know that you have so much going on right now. So I appreciate that we get to have this conversation and share it with people. And I'm excited about the next one. I think I'm going to bring a lot back to it as a result of this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And everybody continue to learn together. This is awesome. That's what the whole point of this is.
Totally. Yeah.
Keep reaching
All
out.
right, lady. I appreciate you.
Of course.
All right. Thank you. I'll talk to you next time.
Right. Yeah.